And I've won.
Coat gavel. Anybody want to coat? I'm coat here. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our April Emily Act meeting, the Montana Land Information Advisory Council. I think in a few months, we're gonna have to have a naming contest to see who can come up with the best acronym for our new council name. We'll talk about legislative updates in a little bit, but the legislation that would change and update the Land Information Act has passed the legislature at this point and will soon go to the governor's office. And importantly, that's going to change the name of this council. So, MGIA, I mean, we're struggling, folks. So we're going to help. MTGIA, yeah, GIA, just GIA.
It's almost something.
Yeah, creative people. So welcome. Let's go ahead and do introductions. My name is Jenny Stapp, and I'm the state librarian and chair of the Land Information Advisory Council.
I'm Kevin Loberg. I'm the state GIS specialist with USDA and RCS.
My name is Dan Staley. I represent the Montana Association of Registered and Surveyors.
Violence involved, work at the University of Montana, representing the Montana University System.
I am Lee Mackles. I'm from the city of Missoula, and I'm a local government representative. If you can come over to here.
Good afternoon. I'm Eric Spangberg. I'm with Lewis and Clark County and City of Helena GIS, and I am the professional GIS representative.
Hello, Mike Bosman. I'm one of the state government representatives and I work at the Department of Transportation.
Afternoon, also a state government representative, Brian Collins, GIS program manager, Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation.
Mike Powell, Yellowstone County, also president of MAGIP, Montana Association of Geographic Information Professionals.
I'm going to ask other council members online if you could introduce yourself, starting with Adam Carpenter.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Adam, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes, Adam Carpenter, I'm the Chief Data Officer for the state.
Alan.
Hi, everyone. Alan Armstrong. Sorry I couldn't make it in person this year. Better luck next year. So I am the Department of Interior representative with the Bureau of Land Management in the Billings, Montana office. Our office is over Montana and the Dakotas.
And Charlotte.
Hello, my name is Charlotte Hilton and I'm with Broadband Montana. We are formerly known as the Montana Telecommunications Association, and I am a private business representative.
And Dawn.
Hi there, Dawn Anderson with Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks. Also sorry that I couldn't be there today. I just had other obligations.
Am I missing any council members who are online? All right, let's go ahead and ask those other, let's see, guests who are online, and then we'll come back into the room. So Evan. Evan, if you're with us, could you introduce yourself? Let's move on to Michael Ashway.
Hi, everyone. Michael Fashway, Montana State Library, GIS Land Information Lead.
Thanks, Michael. And Kazi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kazi Arifuzaman. I am the RTN coordinator at Montana State Library.
And Rebecca.
Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Camp. I'm a data coordinator at the Montana State Library.
And Sam Scott. He's coming up, and all this doesn't have a mic. Great. Sam, thanks for joining us. And let's see, Barrow.
Yeah, Steve Varl with the City of Kalispell, engineering technician and GIS with the Public Works Department.
Thanks for being with us. Let's come back in the room. Erin.
I'm Erin Fashway, I'm the state GIS coordinator.
Debbie Lighthizer, admin specialist.
For Lamford, GIS, water information lead, state librarian.
And those of you in the audience, if you could just introduce yourself.
Mathieu de Duran, the regional manager.
Nice to meet you.
Shane Fox, the Lake County Commissioner.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Megan Bird, GIS analyst. Great. Carolyn Gonzalez, GIS specialist at the state library.
Travis, I'm a GIS analyst at the Montana State Library. Hi, Nick Yorkshire, I'm a GIS analyst. Jeff Young, one station, we support the 911 over here.
You had a chance to be the last guy, but since I took over, I'm the last person. I'm Ken Big Sky GeoCon. I'm the regional geospatial coordinator for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Location is in Billings. So
Thank you all for being here. For those of you in the room, we do have a sign-up sheet, so if you would just sign in for us, we appreciate that. Are there any other announcements that I'm forgetting? Okay. All right, let's move on to the executive summary. You have the November 17th, that's actually 2022 executive summary in your meeting materials. Are there any corrections or additions to that executive summary?
There's just one minor one under mine on both the September and November, it's just MSD instead of MD.
MDT, okay, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
We'll get those corrected. Any other corrections?
I've got a technical question. To get to our meeting packets and need to get on wireless.
Oh, yeah, the wireless, it's Bobcat, lowercase, Bobcat 12,
Is it
the GranTree.
Okay.
So we've all mine, I know we're trying to catch as much, we've all mine, so we have to talk extra loud. All right, any other corrections or additions to the executive summary? Seeing none, those will stand approved. I'm gonna ask Mike Powell to give the MAGIP president's report.
Thank you very much. I do have a little slideshow, thanks to Jeff Edstrom to help me out on that. Just let that come up. Basically, just gonna read right off of it. Since our last, since the last meeting, we, it was back in September, we've had to do quite a bit. I think it's been quite busy. We had established a task force to determine our membership fees, about raising our membership fees. With that collaboration in several meetings, we were able to come to a consensus on what we would like to have. That has been implemented now. And from all I've heard, that there's been little to no issues with the transition. So I think we're pretty good with that. Salary survey during this time between September and now, we finally got the salary survey out and out to everybody and sent out. We started a new SIG, special interest group for LiDAR. We had a great turnout for GIS Day throughout Montana. In Missoula, we sponsored Missoula, Bozeman, Helena, and Billings. And where we could and when it was possible, we supported 3 bills of legislation, one in person, one written. The other one we just verbally were supportive of. And as far as I know, most of that has gone through with no hiccups. So that's a good thing. For the conference, obviously, we've been doing the conference since September, really. Our theme common ground, building connections. We had 18 people in the committee, Zach Collins and Eric Schreier, both from Bozeman or the co-chairs. It's been a great turnout already. We have over 200 people. Over 115. We're doing workshops today and tomorrow, or no, a bit yesterday and today. We have 19 exhibitors, sponsors, and 52 sessions. It's all spread out within 10 track topics. It's just been wonderful. I think it's just been great. Everybody just been wanting to come here, kind of thing. So it's been a good showing. Thanks. We had our social event last night at the Shrine, well attended. It was very nice, very good to see everybody. Everybody had a good time. Tonight we have the exhibitor showcase. We have 11 posters submitted and 6 web apps submitted for the contest. So that was also great to see. Wednesday we'll have the keynote presentation during lunch. Awards banquet is Wednesday evening. We'll give out some grants and scholarships, and we'll announce the awards for the posters and web. There'll be a trivia going on that night as well. Elections that are coming up this year, we have 5 actually. We have 5 that are coming up this year. Vice President, Treasurer, Secretary, Technical Committee Chair, and Grants and Scholarship Committee Chair. So if any of you guys are interested to help volunteer, it shows there on the sign the different terms, just 2-year terms really. We'd really be interested in having you come in and let us know. We can certainly get you in the election. So, and we would like to have participation and stuff. Next. Along with the elections of the different committees, we also have a few amendments to our Constitution, as well as our bylaws. With our bylaws, we have the last couple of meetings, we have come up and discussed about reintroducing a web administrator as a elected officer. So we are updating our Constitution and our bylaws to accommodate that for next election. So that will be another position. We are in need of somebody to keep a good eye on our website. We've also been expanding our partnerships with Marls. We were at the Marls conference, we had a booth there, and we are hosting them here as we're switching. We reserve space for each one of us, and it's a great collaboration, I think. Hopefully we can continue it. Thanks.
I just want to thank you for giving us such a good booth space. I mean, it's right front and center. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you guys are all invited to next year's Big Sky GeoCon. It will be in Billings. So at the Northern Hotel, we're looking forward to that. It's going to be, I think Northern is going to be really, really nice for us. And that's about all I have.
Can I just say I love the time frame for the next one?
Yeah,
The later in the month is a lot better for.
we brought it down because of Easter, actually, because Easter is the beginning of the month. We didn't want to get right after Easter, so that's kind of why we bumped it down a little bit. But
The spring break, I know that's probably not near most school spring breaks, but when it's back to back, it's hard, but I'm liking that time frame.
So that's all I got.
Any questions for Mike? Congratulations on the conference.
Well, thank you. Yeah, hopefully we should get, obviously it's just workshops today, tomorrow, or yesterday and today. So tomorrow, a lot of people are going to be here. So I think it's going to be pretty good.
Has the location for the 2025 conference been set yet?
No, it has not. It has been discussed. It was discussed to be in Helena, but we had some other discussions actually last night over a few drinks. And we have, some other places have been brought up, so we need to have a discussion about that, so no, thank you.
Okay.
Aaron, move on to our standing report. The grant report.
I have an unstable internet connection, so we'll see what happens.
I can help you out.
Are you getting offline now?
Yeah, just. Forgot my Wi-Fi hub. Wish I would try.
Yeah, I just got the boot. Okay. Yeah. This second time it's waiting in the past 5 minutes. Okay, we are in the process of closing out fiscal year 2022. We've got a few more months left. There's one final report for fiscal year 2022 grants that will be due actually in the next couple of days. If you recall fiscal year 2022, when we made those awards, there was still a significant amount of money remaining. So we opened it up to an off-cycle grant program solely for the purposes of collecting new survey control. And we have 2 grantees that have had difficulty procuring and getting their projects started due to a demand on surveyors' time. And so we will see that at least 2 of the fiscal year 2022 off-cycle grants will ask for a special request for an extension. And that would be the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, the Coal Creek State Forest, PLSS data collection, and then Stillwater County. But I've been working with Stillwater County and the DNRC, and they've assured me that the DNRC is still having difficulty finding a surveyor, and I've given them options, told them to reach out to Marls. Apparently they've had a couple kind of on the hook and didn't go anywhere. And I don't know if it's just because it's a very unique location that's covered in snow, and I'm looking at Dan. Because he represents Marls, so for those of you online, anyway, so I've encouraged them to reach out to Marls and a couple other surveyors in the community to hopefully help them procure or to contract with the surveyor in that community. But it is up near Polbridge, that Coal Creek area near the park, and so it's covered in snow most of the time, and so it's a difficult area to get.
These are the off-cycle.
Yeah, this is the off-cycle. Yeah. Macomb County completed their grant within the time frame, and then City of Great Falls is in the process of closing out their grant right now. Those were the 4 off-cycle grants. And then the other ones for fiscal year 2023, I've had a few grantees already reach out to me and request an extension that would be Butte, Silverbow, and Stillwater County. Again, Stillwater County hasn't really had a good success getting off the ground with their fiscal year 2022 grant, so they're behind, so therefore they'd be behind in the 23 grant because they're both survey control collection. But they've been making some significant improvements over the past month and a half, so I am confident that they'll get it done with a 1-year extension. And then Missoula County is wrapping up. They're going to be closing out this year. And Beaverhead County is looking good. Macomb County is completed. Marr County is in progress. Teton and Custer that have not received extension requests. Extension requests for those grants wouldn't be due until May. So that means if they do extend, then we would know sometime mid-May if they need an extension, and we automatically extend those out for 1 full fiscal year. Any questions?
How many, well, we can talk about this when I get to the grant awards, but do we anticipate that access to surveyors is going to be an ongoing issue for future survey.
I think so, and I think Dan even made that clear. Was it not ARPA, the Infrastructure Act, that, yeah, that potentially there's a demand on the surveyor's time from what I'm understanding.
Yeah, that's actually new to me on the Coal Creek one. I'm not sure, maybe local surveyors that is.
Yeah, it is north.
Yeah,
Wow.
she did use the word local there, and so that would make sense. But as a whole, in the entire state, I don't think that's gonna trend. If I had to.
Okay.
One thing we have discussed with these larger survey control grants is if the various public entities could start working together and planning them. For instance, there were 3 counties that were right in a row.
Yeah.
This in this grant cycle. That if for efficiency's sake and maybe, finding just one subcontractor. There's some logic to combining 3 grants like that and making them one.
Right.
And we discussed that in the subcommittee meeting a little bit. That would help with that issue as well. That the lack of surveyors wanting to do survey control, that's actually really new news. It would make sense with the engineering firms.
Yeah.
But local survey only shops, I don't know what's going on there.
That's my report for ongoing grants.
Questions right here?
Okay, I'm gonna. So some of the outreach activities we've done over the past couple months, I'm just gonna go over those high level. We participated in a national geonaval elections forum, and Stuart Fuller from the Secretary of State's office and I gave a presentation about the work that we have done to date with local governments and our partnerships with the Secretary of State's office. We participated in the Marls conference. We had a pretty good presentation there about the cadastral, the RTN, and collecting new survey control for the state, and it was very well attended. Appreciate being a part of that conference. Actually, as a result of that conference, we had a surveyor come up to us and donate. Gosh, I don't remember what the final number was. I'll have to pull it up. Is it 1,000 points? Over 500 points. That we valued at over $500,000 and so I was gonna create a full report for that for the next meeting and then to officially thank the surveyor who donated those points to us. And so their survey control that aligned with the CAT-NSDI and some of the the collection that we like to complete for the states, and it's more of a Teton Hill Judith Basin area. And anyway, at the next meeting, I'll create a map for that. But that was pretty fascinating. And then after that, we attended the MAGIP conference that was in Helena. That was really nice for it to be in Helena. I didn't have to travel. And then I attended NSGIC in Pittsburgh, another really great mid-year meeting. I got on the conference planning committee so that we could pull that NSGIC conference into the state of Montana. Perhaps maybe we could partner with MAGIP. I'm still working. Montana we're a little short on conference facilities. It's a bigger conference, but the planning committee has us slated tentatively for Bozeman next year. No, 2025. We'll see. But I am not going to stop till it comes to state. I started in 2009. It's never been to Montana. And so I know there's a lot of people that would support the conference coming here. So I think it'd be fantastic if NSGIC could finally come to Montana, especially how active we are in the NSGIC community.
What are some of the priorities that NSGIC is focusing on right now?
Some of the priorities that NSGIC is focusing on is broadband activities and LE Hydro, which Troy will give an update on here soon, the continued collection of, nationwide LiDAR for the 3D elevation program. And continuing to work on geo-enabling elections is another hot topic. And then next gen is another continuing hot topic, nationally speaking. And that one is what I've been pushing more is coordinating and outreach to tribes. And so I recently also gave a presentation about our coordination activities with the tribal communities in Montana as a part of the Western States Caucus. That's a subgroup of NISDRC that focuses solely on Western States issues. And I will be attending the National Tribal GIS Conference at the end of this month. And I think that I've been officially tapped on the shoulder. I think that they're asking me to become the tribal liaison for NISDRC to the tribal communities, because I've been pushing the topic. And then the Geospatial Data Act, the National Geospatial Data Act is kind of on a lull right now, but there's discussions about edits and amendments to that act, but that's kind of, from what I understand, on hold. Troy, did I miss anything with some of the activities you've been a part of?
I think you got it, 3DEP and then
3DEP and LA Hydro and how those converge.
yes.
Yep. See if I have an internet. It won't even connect to that anymore. All right, it's too close to Jenny.
Do you want it?
My net, you magnetic.
Do you want this?
Yeah. Yeah, because I do have slides for the geo-enabled elections. Yeah. What's the name? Testnet? This one? Oh, here it is. All right, thank you. Ooh, that is a long question.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience. I think we have some of these around the office. We should bring them. Every time I go somewhere, I think about that. Yeah. No, we have a hotspots. Yeah, hotspots. I don't know how to do that.
And I will tell you, it'll say connected unsecured and then hit it again and it'll connect secured.
It says, no, it actually gave me a badge. It says I'm more secure now.
Okay.
The on speeds are about the same.
Yeah, you're subject to AT&T's network here.
Yeah, no, I'm on mics now. Troy, do you have slides? Are they online? Why don't you go next? Okay. Thank you.
Those of you online, we're gonna ask Troy to give his LiDAR report while Aaron's trying to address her internet issues. What is it?
Second from the bottom. Yeah, there we go.
All right. Again, Troy Blanford. Water information at the State Library, pleased to bring you the LiDAR update. My background there is a new poster that we've done ahead of this conference. It's out on our booth table. We're handing them out. If anyone would like one. I didn't print a whole bunch of them, so if you want one, you might want to snag one early here before the rest of the folks show up. That is Headwater State Park. That's where the three rivers are coming together. You can see a little bit better on the poster out there. All right, next slide. Just wanted to start with a quick little recap or goal here with MSCI elevation. Of course, we're after statewide elevation, LiDAR derived elevation that's high resolution, about 1 meter. High accuracy, about less than 1 foot digital elevation model for the whole state. And we're targeting the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, to have the entire state done. That's of course in alignment with the national goals of the USGS to get the nation done by then as well. Next slide. This is another poster that we have on our table. I thought I'd start with a fun little game here. Who knows the elevation of Granite Peak? What is it? It's over 10,000.
Almost 13. With what state line coordinate system?
There we go. That was a great question. That depends on what coordinate system you use. So with LiDAR, we're using NAVB88. Of course, we're going to be getting the new vertical datum, so that'll be changed by a foot or two, maybe. So all these came off the internet except one. One of them is the LiDAR elevation, and that was the 12804. I put that to probably plus or minus a foot, so it's probably 12805, 12806, somewhere in that range. All right, next slide. This is Makoshiko Park, State Park. The Makoker that. Yes. I get that wrong every time. I looked it up before they see my pronunciation. I missed it again. The campground right there, about the center of it. And this is a hillshade of the digital service model. So you can see the trees on there all on the north facing slopes. There's some pretty, this is the Badlands. The colors are inspired by Badlands. And of course, you see some pretty interesting formations. You see a plateau and those ridges. And on the left side, there's a pretty interesting area. I don't know if it's a historic landslide or just rain washing soils into that valley there, but it's still feature there. All right, next slide. So this is the current state of LiDAR for Montana. We're going to be talking about the yellow and the purple there. The green is what's completed, so all that's available from the state library through our Montana LiDAR inventory. Most of it's also at the USGS and the national map. The blue is what's coming. You know, obviously, one of the most common questions we get is, when is that going to be available? Most of these collections are taking about 2 years from start to finish. So we'll have another one coming up, delivery coming up in the summer or so here, and then the rest in the fall next year. Most of that blue. So the yellow, I've been a little bit hesitant to get news out about this, that this is going to happen. There seem to be some moving parts. Looking at KR over there because he knows what's going on. So we're pretty confident that what you see there in yellow is going to be collected this summer. We're just not sure exactly how yet. Our proposal to the USGS was initially rejected. But they came back and said, you know, you just don't have enough match for us to go through the BAA program. But our partners were federal partners. And so they said, well, you know, we've got a little bit more leeway there when it's federal partners, and we still want to get this done for Montana. So feeling really confident that what's in yellow is going to get done this coming summer. It might be one task order, it might be two, we're not quite sure. Right now with the BIA, and I talk a little bit more about BIA in just a second here, but They're looking to upgrade the Crow Reservation to quality level 1, and I just heard from KR a little bit ago that they're also looking to upgrade Northern Cheyenne to quality level 1. So those are some of the moving parts that are delaying this just a little bit. You see Northern Cheyenne there in purple. So the NRCS supported the Northern Cheyenne collection last year. And the Northern Cheyenne didn't respond to the letter, or they didn't want the flights happening. And they continued discussions with USGS. We think they're going to happen this year. KR has been a big part of that, continuing to keep those conversations going. Pretty confident we'll get Northern Cheyenne done this year as well. All right, so next slide. I won't talk about LiDAR without mentioning the partners. They're the ones that make this happen. You see the list here, the 15. Highlight 2023 there. We had the U.S. Forest Service come in again, and then the Bureau of Indian Affairs stepped up as well. I think that's a pretty good story, KR. That you kind of stumbled upon the state LiDAR plan and said, hey, we want to be a part of this. And you started taking it to the PIA folks and talking with us, and that's where Crow and the Northern Cheyenne's come about. So it's nice to see a state plan not just sit on the shelf, that someone saw it and help get funding and make things happen here. So big thanks to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and KR and the efforts he's been making. Like I said, with those tribes, we really need BIA to help with those communications and be the liaisons there with USGS. All right, so next slide. This is my last slide. I wanted to circle back and kind of end where we started. So again, this is Headwater State Park. This is derived solely from elevation data. There's nothing else here. This is just elevation data. So all I've done is made the lowest elevation blue to look like the rivers. And then the darker purples are also the lower elevations on up to the brighter oranges, and that yellow there are your highest elevations. So just the tie in here to elevation derived hydrography. You can see here the value there. There hasn't been, at least at the state level, there hasn't been a ton of progress yet on elevation derived hydrography as we focus on finishing up LiDAR, but hopefully this next year, that's where my attention in the water info program is going to start to turn, is more towards elevation derived hydrography. And that's my last slide. If there's any questions.
Questions for Troy?
Have you made your GranTree?
I have not. Oh, have you?
No.
My husband had it.
Oh,
That's- Very cool. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah.
Troy, forgive me if you might have already touched on this, but just having involved in all the FEMA work in Park and Stillwater and in Yellowstone counties, we're seeing a lot of this statewide LiDAR used for hydrography in those sorts of projects. Have you gotten any feedback about that?
So for like risk mapping, like
and bridge replacements, emergency funding on.
It's definitely one of the more common requests that we get as they come in. People ask for the LiDAR. That's what it's one of the main uses. Having got a lot of feedback on like final product, like how did it turn out? I also know that due to the floods in all those areas you were describing, the DNRC is planning to reapply a lot of that this year already. So, I mean, there were huge changes, and you can see it in the LiDAR.
Yeah.
After
Some of
before and
some
after
of
this could be
those
pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah, you know.
I could provide a little more context or update there as well. Where DNRC is in hot pursuit. So just over a week ago, made the purchase for LiDAR sensor payload for DJI Matrice drone. With the best case scenario being able to fly some relatively large stretches of the Yellowstone River and some tributaries. Pre-runoff this year to establish some baseline information for some of those. And so I was actually going to ask Troy when, and we can have some more follow-up here. Is there a mechanism in through the state inventory that we could be sharing that information for others that find it beneficial, et cetera? But you're aware that we're moving forward with that. Again, the hardware should arrive soon. So I think once it's here, we familiarize ourselves, we're acting fast each day when we can, I'm sure. So it's pretty exciting opportunity. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I Just on a personal request, by September of 2024 would be awesome. That's when the next round of funding comes along.
So the same kind of comment goes to the LiDAR data. I don't know, Trey, if you're aware of all the LiDAR data we collected, but obviously there's a huge benefit for our business, but we'd love to be able to get it in a place where it's usable by the bigger broader community, and maybe that ties to the imagery repository project there. But
Yeah.
we have a lot of just kind of first cut at all the LiDAR data we collected.
Yeah. So the Department of Transportation, the Montana State Library, we started discussing a state imagery repository, and we wrote the business case, and then the session came about and everything we had to pump the brakes on that. But we plan on getting the MSI imagery working group together to help discuss that. And we brought in also the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation and the Department of Revenue to hold further discussions about what a state of Montana imagery repository could look like. And LiDAR was definitely on there as something to be discussed in the business case. We're partnering with the CDO, Michael Pitt, from MBT, and we're talking about just state imagery right now. And then, there'll be future discussions about what that could look like, opening it up to others for participate in, but we're at such the beginning stages, and it was something, once we get an imagery working group going again, I think that would be one of the topics we'll have to discuss. Thanks.
Other questions or discussion for Jordan? Stephen Green. You back at the minute.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, I wanted to share with you some of the work that we've been doing with the Geo-enabled elections project. So, and I've got a couple of the project team members in the room. That's a serious delay. Okay. So we've been working on this project for over 2 years now with the Secretary of State's office, county governments, and of course our folks at the Montana State Library. I started working on it with the project with MAGIP back in, I think it was 2019, when the national pilot project started for implementing GIS into the election process, and it really exploded in excitement, and the pilot project was extremely successful. I sat on the committee to kind of oversee what it would look like to develop these best practices. And so some of you have, I don't know, maybe online can see it, but it's so slow. It's like a 10-second delay, if not longer. And so the district came up with a set of best practices, and that was, the first one is convening a team of specialists. And so the groups that we got together were, of course, the Secretary of State's office, the folks at the Montana State Library, and then some key members of local government community. Just booted me off the internet again. I'll post this online. And then the next best practice was creating voting unit GIS data layers. And that was something we had started through a grant project that the Department of Commerce had taken out with Leslie Zolman had done to start creating voting districts to prepare for the 2020 census. And so we kind of had a base layer to start from. It was something that she approached the state library on, I think it was 2017, so it was during our budget cut year, and said, we really should do this. And we said, we really just got cut. And so from there, we said, well, why don't you do the projects, create, take out an MLIA grant, make the proposal, and then we can manage it moving forward. And so once she completed that, and I think Dave Ritz took over that project when she moved on to a different job, and then handed it over to Megan Burns, our administrative boundaries coordinator extraordinaire. This third is having a geocoding strategy. And that's like really important to be able to make sure you can properly geocode addressing, obviously, for not only elections, but for Next Gen 911. And so we were making really great headway for Next Gen, and so we just thought that in my basement during the pandemic, we knew we didn't want another geocoding service for separate for elections, which is what we saw other states doing. So having multiple authoritative data layers is something Michael and I knew we just did not want. It would be too costly to the state of Montana and could cause too many problems, honestly. And so we were in a good position to move forward with the current geocoding and addressing data layer we had under MSDI. And then number 4 is having contextual GIS layers, and Montana is really lucky, and we're blessed to have such great authoritative GIS data for 20-some years now. And so having parcels, having administrative boundaries, having the CAD and SDI, having those imagery, having those contextual GIS layers that you use to draw the voting data or to place addresses is extremely important. And then finally, the 5th best practices is implementing data validation processes, which we have done so internally. So we had a 5-step strategy. Number 1, develop election boundary data sets. I wish I have some pretty impressive maps here. Do you have things pulled up? Oh, maybe Caroline, if you could work with her, maybe get to that. I'm not sure if you can. I want to show you the process, the progress we've made, because it's been extremely significant. And I got to tell you that the elections community is great to work with. I love working with the clerks and recorders and the election administrators. They get GIS, they understand it, and they've embraced it, and they want to utilize it. And so with our partnership with the Secretary of State's office and local governments, it's really made this very successful, and it's just a really great GIS coordination story and win for the state of Montana. Step 2 is testing in the election management system, and that is something we've been working with the Secretary of State's office. So we started contracting with them a little over a year ago. We were able to hire a position solely dedicated to helping with this project. But we've got a whole cast of folks working on it, and their system is live now. And Stuart Fuller from the Secretary of State's office will be with us in our presentation tomorrow. And so I encourage you all to come to that presentation tomorrow, so we can you can hear a lot more about what's been going on. But it's worked, and the GIS is in the system, and it's being utilized currently. The 3rd step of the strategy is refining of the data sets. So we're constantly working to make sure that that information is following the best practices. It meets our standards, and that the data can be utilized in our system. Step 4 is implementation and publishing, and step 5 is data maintenance. And so we all know that maintenance is so important. So what is a precinct split? It's basically a ballot. A precinct split is a subset of a voting precinct created by the various election district boundaries. So a precinct split basically equals the ballot that you would receive in the mail. So if a lighting district splits you and your neighbor, then you guys would be in two different, but everything else holds the same. You guys would be in two different precinct splits. So not every county has an election for each type of district. Off the top of your head, Megan, how many, I'll look to you, how many district types are there? 30?
There's
33 types. So if you think about that and overlaying those over the state, we have many different splits. So I have this beautiful map here that you cannot see in front of me. They can, but the split status, we have a lot of dark blue, and dark blue means that we've received 100% of the splits for those counties. There's only a handful of counties that are there's only a couple counties that are less than 50% or at 50%. So we've done a really great job of getting all the splits for all the counties. So here are my statistics. We've got 100% of counties submitting data to us. And we have 47 of the 56 counties completed. I think that's the statistic. 47, it says 84% here. There are a total of 2,300 unique districts, 33 election district types, and and we've got 2,555 of the 3,040 that have been, so we're at 84% that we've been able to get from the counties and then send on to the Secretary of State's office for them to incorporate into VPRO, which is their election system. And the county with the most splits when we first started the project was Flathead County with 299. All right, I'll give you a quiz. Who do you think, what county surpassed them at 333? No, Flathead was 299. What county? Yeah, Missoula. I was looking at the county. I don't know how many are in the city, it'd be interesting to see.
Missoula added 100 split these past couple months.
And then there's a tie for counties with the fewest splits. Anyone want to throw out at least a county? Nope.
What was the question? Sorry.
A county with the fewest splits.
No.
Nope.
Russell Shell.
Yes.
What was it?
Who said it? Treasure. Treasure and Mar are tied for 2. So they are officially the easiest ones to map.
Let's just pause for a minute and see if we can get access to some of this information. Genevieve, Carolyn, is it worth it?
No.
Throw it up.
I think it's my computer, honestly.
Well, I got a text from someone else saying Darren's hard on computers.
Oh my God. I know who sent you that text. Hold on. I am not.
So there is one bar on AT&T here.
Okay.
Probably, you may want to try the hotel Wi-Fi. I mean, I'm on it and I'll get off, that helps.
Try.
Maybe you can only have, who else on the Wi-Fi in here?
I'm on BW GranTree, yeah. I can get off it though. I've got to dodge out of here in 10 minutes.
What? Can't leave.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, I'm off.
Someone has to explain the grants.
I have to. I think Aaron's already planning.
Oh, the chair.
Yeah, but we were on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to leave. Okay.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Aaron and Carolyn, our new precincts are going to the commission agenda Thursday, so.
So are you trying to beat the record?
No.
Okay.
If anything, I tried to
Go back.
reduce our splits, but the state forced us to make sure we met 2,500 electors, so that ended up adding a bunch of.
Okay.
precincts.
Okay,
Are you aspiring to be more like Mar? Is that what you're?
okay. So before I lose internet connection again, this is the split status, so as of 3/26. You see the lighter colors are the ones with the least amount of splits and that we've received, but the great thing is when we started this project, we did not have all counties reporting, and now we do, and so it's on the election administrator's radar. They're working, some of them have applied for grants, we're working with them to make sure that they're able to get us that data. And then I will talk redistricting quite a bit.
Mars is technically complete.
I was gonna say,
They haven't figured out, their split that they need to delete from the system.
Oh, okay,
That's
thank
my
you.
error.
Okay, so they're blue. And then, Caroline, the light blue is current, and then the red is when we got started, so I did.
Well, that was last year.
Last year at this time. So you can see the progress that we've made, over the year, so really great progress. And I didn't make Caroline take a picture, she's using, some FME scripting and these crazy workflows that one looks like a slug or a snail, it's so massive and huge. Sometimes I make her show it to people just because it's so crazy. Yeah, to see the snail. So if you ever hear us talking about the slug or the snail, we're talking about our scripts or the workflows that she's created. And so this is a precinct split coverage in 2022.
Are those a visual of the precincts? That's cool.
Yeah. And then 2023. So I'll do that again.
Be a ballot, Bob.
Yeah, you could. You can vote from anywhere in Montana.
We'll send you a ballot if you're out in the Sun Canyon.
Yeah.
Can't vote from here. Right, there's a chance to vote here.
So this is the redistricting timeline. The counties are busy. I kind of feel bad. It's a very busy time for them, and they're at the conference, but they also have to have the final approval of the voting precincts by April 8th. Those get sent to the Secretary of State's office. And then, we've been asking for them as soon as counties have them. Then we have the school elections in May. We're going to be adding new House and Senate districts, 24 through 32, to elect MT in June. The election administrators will update precincts in elect MT in June. And then we'll create the new precinct split boundaries with the new precincts in June. So some of the counties, I don't remember what the percentage is, if you guys do, of what counties actually had to make updates.
Like
26 counties. So 26 counties, because of redistricting, had to update their data. So that's a significant amount of work to be done. And then we have a hub, and it's a really great hub. I encourage you all to go out and take a look at it. It has the timeline in there. You can interact with some of our maps and our apps. You can download data, you can look at code, you can look at our reporting. We've got videos on how to use the information, and then lists from some important stuff in the Secretary of State's office, any tools or projects that we have out there that we can share for pro, and then lists of redistricting software and GIS contractors, the GIS contractor list through MAGIP. And we'll put this slide so you can actually click on the links, but we have our own a single source email for the project itself. So if anyone needs any information on geo-enabled elections, I encourage you to take a look at and send an email to that inbox, because it's being checked by multiple folks. But we've got Megan Burns and Caroline Saltis, Michael and myself, but Megan and Caroline are doing bulk of the work. And it's just really going very well, and I wanted to give that report to you all. So I really want to thank Megan and Caroline for all their hard work, and Michael, of course. It's been it's just been a really awesome experience and I think it's because we have such a good community and we have a grant program we can utilize, the MSDI that's in place that we've been able to be so successful. So that's my report on June 8th elections. Megan and Caroline will take your questions. Any questions?
Where are you gonna post this one? You gonna post it,
I'll post it to our meeting materials.
meeting materials?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Aaron or Carolyn or Megan? I did want to add that when we had our district meeting about this, our state is one of the most prepared and most ready for precinct slips. So out of the whole country.
So what Caroline said was that our state is one of the most prepared out of all 50 states for this process.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. All right. Who has to follow that? Michael.
I think Michael finished share the Action 911 update.
Michael, yeah, hi.
Can you share your screen at all?
I actually, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. I actually don't have a formal PowerPoint or anything. I did send you a link. I don't know if you want to share the dashboard. I guess I could do it. Let's see.
Would you like me to open that link, Michael?
Yeah, if you want to, that'd be fine. All right, I'll get to this or the dashboard in a minute. But again, I'm Michael Fashway, State Library GIS Land Information Lead. I'll just quickly go over some of the progress we've made over the last quarter or so on the Next Gen GIS effort. In terms of outreach and support we've done, Bob Cochran, our 911 GIS analyst, continues to do a lot of support with counties and cities and those that are maintaining GIS data for 911 via just meeting with them online on a regular basis to go over GIS workflows, helping them improve their GIS data, just kind of overall helping them in whatever way they need that support. Some of the counties he's been working with most recently include Macomb, Broadwater, Teton, Sheridan, Powder River, the Rosebud Treasure PSAP. It's a combination PSAP there, and Great Falls. Bob and I both made an in-person visit down to Jefferson County last month, and we met with Michelle Morris, the GIS manager there, and we also touched base with the elections administrator, and I believe we briefly met with the DES folks as well. And that's something we try to do when we're actually in person in the county as much as possible, try to stop in and at least say hi to others that kind of are using the data, such as elections administrators and things like that. In terms of the status dashboard you're seeing here, this captures usage and the status of the GIS validation and aggregation portal. As a reminder, that's the software as a service that we contract with One Spatial for. That went live last October. And you can see here there are, I think, 27 counties that are participating in some level. The light blue ones are in what we call an onboarding phase, and that basically just means they have a user account and they've started to kind of get in there. Maybe they're preparing their data or reformatting it to actually start doing validations. We're up to about 8 or 9 counties that are in the single layer validation. So that's the slightly darker blue that you see here. I think the dashboard's only showing about 6 or so, but it hasn't been updated in the last couple of weeks since Bob and I have both been out on spring break or kind of tied up with the MAGIP conference. So we're pretty excited about the usage of that. Definitely want to encourage any counties that are not using it yet to do so. And if they have questions, or feel free to reach out to us. The last thing I'll mention is Bob and I both did a workshop yesterday, GIS for next generation 911 and addressing. There was, I think, 12 people registered and 11 people attended, and it went pretty well. And I believe that's about it. Can answer any questions.
I have no questions for Michael. Next, we have an update on the real-time network. Kazi, are you still with us? Kazi, are you with us and able to do an update on the real-time network? All right. Well, maybe we will come back to him. Let's move on to the strategic goals implementation report. Difficult to use one screen. You're using Zoom too. So I wanted to talk about some of the strategic planning goals that we have been working on, and the first one is in improve communications, business partner plan, or business plan that we have kind of hit the ground running on. And so the two objectives we've been working very hard on under the overall improved communications is improve the incoming communication pathways for support requests and public inquiries to be clearly defined. So that's the subjective here. And then the third is the library GIS web content structured for ease of use and discoverability. And we were able to work with the ServiceNow team from ITSD to basically create a ticketing system for any new requests for support. We have not, it's up and running. And so that's kind of taken a lot of our time. It's a kind of a hot fast project that came at the end of December. And our team worked pretty hard to basically work on our on-call requests. So if you are not aware of how we currently do things, basically we separate out, divide duties so that one person is on call for all the requests that come in that week with an on-call backup. And so as a part of the strategic planning process and then the business planning process, it was identified that we're spending way too much time on the phone. And that we need to reorganize and concentrate our support online and modify our whole way that we look at incoming requests. And so we have gone through that process. It is up and it's live in ServiceNow. We hope to implement that with training. So we have to do internal training first on how to use ServiceNow.
and create our new workflows, and then also train the community on how these incoming support requests will be taken and what the expectations will be. But it will help us better track all the information that's coming in and all that awesome business data that folks love to see, you know, what the bulk of our calls, the bulk of our tech support requests, how we could better serve our communities. Sometimes that's, we can take a look at the current data we're tracking to understand, you know, right now, when someone is on call, taking that general line or addressing the emails coming in the general inbox, majority of those calls are cadastral, you know, and so we study that information and see, well, what are some of the major questions that are coming in? Could it be addressed with better help menu? Could it be addressed with tutorials? Could it be addressed with training? And so we take a look at that information to better serve our users and our patrons. And so we're pretty excited to start implementing that process. And we want to thank Kenny Kettner and Matt Trevish for taking the lead on that. Megan Burns has been extremely helpful on that because it ties in so well to, so Matt Trevish has taken the lead in helping organize that effort. And then Megan has taken the lead on helping organize our library GIS web presence and to basically, we have a lot of web pages and we want to try to concentrate our information in a more easier, accessible and discoverable way. That was something that came out as a risk for some of the initial surveys that came out from the community. It's that our information not always easy to find. And so we have been working with Esri to use our Enterprise Advantage program to work with their experts to better inform us on how we should be organizing and serving out our information, given that we have such a variety of data out there coming from all sorts of different data sets and all sorts of different types of data. Whether it's, you know, imagery collections versus cadastral, whether it's downloadable versus a web app or some sort of web service. So we, I think I don't think we stumped Esri, but they definitely had to go back to the drawing board when we had our first initial meeting. They said, I think this is, I told them, I think you're under scoping it. And so they've kind of gone back to the drawing board and they're giving us their experts on UX, UI, and then also just their hub experts as well to help us better serve out our information. The one thing I'm a little concerned about when any kind of new product comes out is a hub for everything. Like, I don't think we need 15 hubs. But I would like Esri and their teams of experts to help us understand how to best use the technology to serve out the information that we have. I know Brian and I have had endless conversations about new technologies and how, you know, they can be overused sometimes, and it just makes things, it kind of gets us back into the same position we're already in with, you know, hundreds of web pages. And so that is a huge workload in itself. And so we're really excited to start the process. And we've been working on those. Those are the two major objectives that have taken a lot of our time over the past couple of months. In addition to, you know, the regular work that we have to do. And we, I don't know if it's been officially, I don't think it's finalized quite yet. It was finalized right before we came, I went on spring break. So I think that's like kind of the common theme here is we have the final business plan for improving partnerships that has been developed by ActGeo, and I'd like to present that at the June meeting. I think it's almost there and ready for publication. But it's a great business plan. It will use we'll create models for business, or excuse me, we'll create models for partnerships, what our partners look like, how we want to put them into an organized way for us to address any kind of partnerships that we see at risk, any partnerships that need special attention, partnerships that don't exist or kind of failed over time. And it'll give us a structure and a framework to move forward to make sure that our partnerships are better tracked and maintained over time. I think that we're very lucky in that even at Geo, now Sanborn has said that they're always impressed with the work that we can get done here in Montana, and I think it's because of our good personal relationships that we have with so many different partners. And but we know we can do better, and we want to do better, and this framework will help us maintain and track those over time. And prioritize, and then, obviously prioritize partnerships that need more work. But that's where we're at right now. The next business plan that we'll work on developing with Actio, once this is finalized, they actually did start to work on that, is developing policies, geospatial policies for that. Any questions, sir?
Some of your policies are gonna be federal policies too.
We have adopted policies, I would say, like, the NINA standard. We've adopted that standard, so I guess it would fall in line with that type of policy.
What about the FGDC policy as well? The GAs have an agent level. Have the state itself thought of that as well? Because we as BIA, as environmental presentation, as well as what we have done, which is getting on the geo platform, and we have an enterprise. So that's just wondering if the state thought about that.
I think that the future of the Geospatial Data Act is that there'll be more policies coming that can easily flow. The idea, the large picture, is that they'll easily flow to the different levels of framework, whether it's at the local level, local framework, local spatial data infrastructure, state spatial data infrastructure, federal, national, global. And so I would see that our policies, I would see that they would be, we would want, in order for things to work, we'd have to have some level of similarities. And we try not to be extremely stringent, especially through the grant program. And we give the bare minimum, saying we need you to meet this standard. Feel free to add on to that. And so the other big project I forgot to mention was we're working on with Esri a governance policy for ArcGIS Online. Because not only do we manage the ArcGIS Online account for the state library, it's what we used to call the master account back in the day. We manage it for other agencies that are just kind of too small to manage their own subscription accounts. And I would think that out of that governance policy, we'll see a lot of other policies come out that would govern some of the work that we do in that portal realm and AGOL realm.
I have two more and I'll stop. We have a national geospatial strategic plan, which is the geospatial integration plan, and that does take effect for tribes. So that our two goals and objectives is data governance and data stewardship. So this leads into this question: have you identified your partners on your business?
We've started to identify our partners, and be honest, it's a challenging process because we have a lot of partners, and now that we have a framework, I think we'll go through and further identify what we want that partner to look like and what that partner could look like, but we don't have an all encompassing partner list yet. We've got so many different levels of partners, and like I said, this framework I think will help us better organize it.
From one coordinator to the next. We have our national strategic plan developed. I have a regional strategic plan that's developed. National business plan that's been developed. We also have my own region's business plan that's been developed. I would like to give it to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because if partnership is tribes, I think it'd be great for you to view that.
Yeah.
and See how that can be part of that.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of leaving.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. I think that, you know, the more that are, whether it's a land plan or our strategic plans can interact and reference other plans that exist. I think that's the holistic pie in the sky goal we're trying to get to.
That's why I didn't create my own LiDAR plan. It's,
Well-
it's Troy's, because why create another plan, there's already a plan out there.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And I will mention, because I talked about the presentation that I gave and that I'm attending the National Tribal GIS Conference, but another thing that I've been working on, just regular coordination calls with KR, and Caroline Rohrock. Did she come to this?
She'll be in.
Okay, so those are our two regional geospatial advisors, coordinators, sorry, RGC, for the BIA. And so it's like their central GIS coordinator for the BIA, and those two folks represent or cover the state of Montana. And I've been working with them monthly.
Thursday, I'll do a breakdown of what we do with the BIA. It's gonna be breaking down for each thing too.
So some of the things that we talk about is, you know, this actually it started with this council position. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out. Trying to get the council position filled. Some of the other things you talked about, LiDAR, obviously that's come up. Just the role of the RGCs, and it started out with KR and I, and then Caroline joined our call. I'm so glad she's coming to the conference. And then future coordination activities specifically targeted towards tribes and the tribal GIS community. And then the other thing that came out of it was there hadn't been a tribal track at this conference in a long time. And so we had reached out and encouraged him to reach out. And
encourage me to be on the seat, but
yeah. It's so, but now we have a tribal track. So we're doing good. Yeah.
So I have a question back to the policy thing, and you used the word standards in there, and when you made reference to standards, are you talking about technical standards like OGC, or are you talking about standards that Montana would develop for, say, data collection, or both?
I would say probably both. I think that there'd be a pretty big review of policies and standards. And like right now, the state does not have an official addressing standard, and that was one thing that Secretary of State's office and I had talked about. That could be a really good win to come up with just the state of Montana addressing standard, how to how to specifically denote an address in a database so that you can map it. I'd say that's the one big thing that we see when people start trying to map addresses. It's, they're all over the place. And so luckily some of the tools allow you to take that data and kind of map it, but that's one of the things we've talked about, kind of thrown out there. I think some of the standards in regards to the MCI, the NINA standard, which kind of governs the next gen data sets, any kind of standard or best practice in regards to the geo-enabled elections, standards or best practices for collecting survey control, using RTN, perhaps data sharing between state agencies, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions for Aaron? Kazi, are you able to get an RTN update?
Sure.
Thanks, Kazi. Go ahead.
Okay, so can I share my screen so that audience can see the RTN status in this?
Yes, let me make you co-host. Okay, go ahead.
So we have a so our Montana real-time network, we have a website. Is the website address is mtsrn.org. And you can see we have currently 60 stations added to the network. Each station is called nodes. And we have two ways of receiving the correction. User can receive correction using a single station node, or we have created 5 subnets. Subnets are net that uses station feeds in it and create a network-based correction. So user can receive network-based correction as well as single station correction. This year, MDT has a plan to add 10 more stations to the network. And under the MLIA grant, we are seeking applications. And we have one application from Custer County in the Miles City. So we'll add 1 station in the to fill the gap in the eastern flank. We are also expecting to contribute on this to establish a station in the Circle City. Currently, if a user can use this network or website address, website has a FAQ and printable network map, so they can see which station they can use and how it works. And they also can reach in the FAQ, they can have my address or email ID or phone, and they can reach out to me to ask any questions they have. Thank you.
Thanks, Kazi. Talk a little bit about the status of the legislation behind supporting the RTN in our legislative update. Are there any questions about the current status and operations of the RTN?
I was just gonna ask Kazi or Aaron, are there other RTN investments other than land council grants or MDT that you guys know that are just independent of those two? Maybe that's for Kazi. So are there other entities planning on installing new sites?
We're looking for partnerships. Kazi, I'm not sure if you heard Mike Bozeman from MDT. He was asking if there are other partners out there who are currently trying to install a station. And I think there's some stations that exist that we could potentially turn on. But Kazi and I and Evan and well, the whole team are doing, outreach and looking for partnerships. I know the city of Helena just turned one on, but and then I think there's the city of Billings, and so I think that there's we're like LiDAR, we're open for partners.
Yeah, in terms of partnership, Mike, I would say that we got a big contribution from PBOs. Plate Boundary Observatory, which is run by UNEPCO. We have like 15 stations, and that really contributes a lot to our network. City of Missoula added 3 stations, and I think other 2 cities I can't remember on top of my head. Other than this, the partnership is kind of evolving right now. I would say we are trying to reach out, and partnership always does not mean that we would shoulder all the responsibilities. That's how that's how we plan to move on. Such as the electric or energy bills, we would like to see that when a partnership comes to us, they would like to take that as kind of responsibility. Yeah, so we are reaching out, as Erin says. Yeah.
Thank you.
We've had a lot of tribal partnerships as well. So one of the grantees that will have the council take action on is from Custer County, and that was, you know, some of the conversations back and forth with their county commissioners and their GIS coordinator is as a partnership that they would shoulder the burden of the, like you said, energy bills, so electricity, and then access to the internet. So that would be an expectation that they would be able to provide a location that would work and be and meet our specs and standards, and then also that they would handle that portion of the monthly charges.
Okay, and really where I was going was, are we stretching our limited dollars as far as we can and putting them in the sites that are most needed? I mean, you have MDT with, I think, a dozen or so new sites. And I don't want to disrupt Bill Weaver's plans, but
Right.
in future iterations, are there ways to partner to say we really need one over here that might not have been a highest priority for MDT, but adds value, but adds more value to the network? So just so long as those conversations are happening.
Yeah, I think you can see the major hole
Yeah.
in the map, and it follows a major interstate. So I would say, you know, some of our high population areas have been served. And making sure that we continue to build out the rest of the state. And then you'll also see eventually, we've got 4 sensors currently outside of the state boundary. You'll start to see more of those. Because in order to have state coverage, you have to go outside of your state. And that includes Canada.
The other thing I would add is, we will likely have some remaining funds from our one-time only RTN funds from this biennium. And we're talking about establishing an MOU with the partners to target areas of the state where we want to put up base stations that others haven't identified. You know, in our legislative discussions, the southeast part of the state has obviously garnered some attention from some legislators, so that area, Custer, Fallon County, that area is high on our radar.
Good, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kazi. Any other questions? All right, and then finally, in our spending reports, you have the second quarter financial report from the land information account. So that's obviously about a quarter behind. So we just ended the third quarter, and we'll have that report to you at your next meeting. We are seeing a little bit of a decline in the MLI collections after the peak of some of the housing boom. So that's not unexpected to us. Things seem to be leveling off just a little bit. And then right now expenditures are running a little bit behind where we would typically see them at this point in the fiscal year. Especially because we haven't had a lot of payments to our grantees for this particular fiscal year. But again, that information will be updated for you at your May meeting. Questions about the financial report? Okay, let's move on to our current business and our primary action of this meeting, which is review and adoption of the FY24 grant recommendations. And I do want to thank Dan for his leadership as the chair of the grant review subcommittee. He did have to leave, but you have the recommendations of the subcommittee as part of the meeting materials. Aaron, if you can walk us through the recommendation.
Can you open up the document?
No.
Okay, so there was 2 documents in the meeting materials. First is the memo, and then the next is the actual table with the recommended prioritization of the application. There were a total of 11 grant applications submitted this year for the FY 2024 grant program. You see an error in that, it should say 24, not 23. There were total requests for MLIA funds with over $380,000. And we only have 250 budgeted, so obviously, there were quite a few grants that we're not going to be able to fund, given the just the total ask and what we have the ability to grant out. So if you want to click on that other chart. It's in the materials. There, thank you. And then could you possibly zoom in, so. Perfect, okay. So there is I think so, yeah. Do you want it zoomed in one more? There is a total of 7 grants that the subcommittee has reviewed and recommended for funding. And then, of course, there are recommendations and stipulations for these 7 grants. And so we have a little bit of a variety here. We've got the Map Missoula project. They're on year 4. The request here is a year 4 of 5. The Fort Peck, Cinnamon and Sioux tribes, which would be the collection of survey control, coming in at number 2. Number 3 would be Blaine County improvements to the PLSS, so collecting survey control. City of Great Falls is in that would be the 2nd phase, year 2 of their current project to collect more control for the city of Great Falls and surrounding areas. And Sheridan County is a next gen grants, next gen and elections grants coming in at number 5. Number 6 is Custer County, establishment of an RTN station in Custer County, which would be the city of Miles City. Drew a blank there for a second. And then Broadwater County, coming in at number 7 for a next gen grant. And then I'll just go through the stipulations and recommendations. Missoula County had already written it into their grant that they were going to present their project at Big Sky GeoCon. So we did not make that recommendation as they factored that in. But we did have a little bit of remaining funds, not enough to fund another project, but enough to give back to some of the grantees and ask them to present to not only the council or the commission, and then also present their projects at next year's Big Sky GeoCon. So we were able to do that for Fort Peck, Blaine County, Sheridan County, Custer County, and Broadwater County. And then there was a recommendation to not fund objective 1.2 out of Broadwater County's grant, because that's some of the outreach and work that has already been going on. That their GIS position and Bob Cochran from our team was able to work through and complete. And so that significantly lowers the amount that we are recommending for funding for Broadwater County. So out of the 11 grants, we've the subcommittee met and prioritized 7, and the folks that were on the subcommittee are Dan Staley, the chair, Alan Armstrong, Eric Steinberg, Valentine, and Mike Bozeman, and am I missing? I don't think I am. I don't know, since Dan's not here, if anyone was interested from the subcommittee in discussing the process at all.
No, I think it went well. I mean, maybe better than it has ever. It was interesting because this is, I don't know, how long has it been since?
A long time.
Yeah, so it was a bit different approach and.
A long time, let's finish that, but a long time since we had more grant fund requests than funds, right?
Yeah, so in past years, it was it was more, is there something really wrong with something versus is there enough money? And this year it was a little bit different, but it was good.
Dan's nice during this.
The one thing I was thinking about, Aaron, and maybe we'll have a kind of a lessons learned, but is it worth looking at, we're kind of have these categories now. Is it worth looking at either different pots and setting limits or priorities for the different categories, just something? Look in the future years where, and that's of course driven by the land plan, but
Yeah.
part of that is driven by what the council.
Yeah.
Suggested.
You said, did Dan join?
Yeah, Dan is on the
Because I
program.
was gonna say, I think his, it was either you or he made that comment regarding, you know, we had those, the 3 of those PLSS upgrades along the High Line.
Right,
And that idea of coordination amongst neighboring areas would put it under more of that regional aspect that I know MLAC has been a proponent of regional type of granting. And you'd also mentioned, I think the gentleman, the surveyor who donated those things is gonna cover a good chunk of hill. I think
It will.
is what you mentioned. So that, you know, something along those lines, if we did that coordination, I think would be a much more favorable outlook to the subcommittees in future recognition of a more coordinated collection across the board.
and I think the counties really appreciate it as well, if we could help coordinate that, you know. Being from a large county with a smaller population, it's a lot of work to manage a grant. And so if we could have that coordination level across counties. I know that Blaine County has done a lot of coordination and they've been able to kind of introduce some regional types of coordination activities up in the Blaine County area in regards to like software procurement and some other activities like regularly scheduled GIS user group meetings and things like that. And so I think that some of the, I have not reached out to Hill County or Columbus County yet, but some of that data that came in is in that area, and I would probably encourage them to perhaps submit another grant in the future. I think that should maybe be noted, is because they weren't prioritized for funding doesn't mean that they, you know, if we had funding, they probably would likely have been prioritized. We had enough. The other thing with Lincoln County, for the geonaval elections grant, the Secretary of State's office has funding available, and I plan on working with Lincoln County to help them create a proposal to submit to the Secretary of State's office to get funding, to approach funding through that avenue. And so trying to understand other avenues that are out there to our locals or tribal governments for these types of projects.
That's right.
Yeah. So if you are a local government in the audience or online, and you are interested in exploring funding through the Secretary of State's office, they do have funding available for geoenabling elections.
Questions or discussion about the grant recommendations for Aaron and other members of the committee? And Dan, thanks for joining us online. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add.
Oh, you're welcome. Sorry, I had to dodge out of there, but I'm here now.
Any questions or discussion about the recommendations? Any public comment about the recommendation? Any comments online? Is there a motion to approve the grant recommendation?
I would make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And just for everyone's awareness, if you're not familiar with the grant process, the council makes a recommendation to the State Library Commission for their consideration, And they will consider the final recommendations at their commission meeting, which is next Wednesday, April 12th. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. Motion carries. And again, thank you to all the members of the subcommittee. I know it's a significant amount of work to review all of those grant applications, but it's such an important part of the work of this council. So thank you so much.
I will say we had a tighter timeline that was more comfortable this year than years past. And everybody met the challenge wonderfully.
Very.
You rose to the challenge.
It was enjoyable weekend reading.
We had a good motivating leader.
That's right.
Thank you, Aaron.
She can be very motivating.
Well, next year, the conference is much later in April. So I foresee things going a whole lot differently.
Different weekend.
Yeah, that's.
I was like,
So Erin covered what she wanted to cover about the coordination strategic plan. So I wanted to move on to the legislative update. I'm going to save House Bill 343 for last, since that will directly impact the work of the council, and just share a few more legislative updates. The state library's budget, as it is contained in House Bill 2, is moving forward as anticipated. We did receive an additional one-time only appropriation of $1 million for the biennium, $500,000 in each of the next 2 years to continue to support the growth and development of the real-time network. That proposal was recommended by the governor and approved by our budget subcommittee and remains in our budget. We have a budget hearing tomorrow morning in Senate Finance and Claims. So that should be the last hearing that our budget will have in the budget process for House Bill 2. And so far that looks like everything should hold for us. So our budget's looking pretty good coming out of the session. Senate Bill 60 is our agency bill that grants the state library the authority to administer the Montana Real-Time Network and to establish an enterprise fund, which is necessary for us to collect subscriptions to help support the operations of the real-time network. That bill is moving along very well. It's made it through the Senate, where it was sponsored by Senator Russ Temple out of Liberty County, and he's just been a really fantastic champion for that piece of legislation. We've had support from MDT and Marls. We've had support from Wally Gladstone, one of the partners who's brought a lot of the stations through the tribes. I want to do a special shout out to Larry Henderson. He's from Liberty County, one of the Liberty County commissioners, who has come to every single hearing and testified in support of the RTN. Can't wait to come back for the next hearing. And he's just been a really, really true, fantastic supporter. He's also bringing some potential business partners through the ag community to help support the growth of the network. So I feel very optimistic that that bill will go through. It did pass unanimously this last week out of the House State Administration Committee. So it just needs to have a couple of votes on the House floor, and then it will go to the governor for signature. It is an agency bill coming with support of the governor, so we have every expectation that he will sign the bill. And then through the summer, we'll look at creating what kinds of administrative rules are necessary for us to complete the kind of enterprise model to support the real-time network, with the goal of having the opportunity to start that subscription model at the beginning of the next calendar year. So January of 2024.
I will add that Ross Temple and Larry Hendrickson were former grantees.
Good point. Yeah, the students up in Chester, Liberty County got a grant a number of years ago to put up a station, and they talked a lot about how the students used the technology to improve GIS for the community of Chester, and it was just really heartwarming and really compelling testimony that they offered. Great success story for us. Before I get to House Bill 343, there are some other bills we want to talk about. Senate Bill 398 updates the coordinate system for the state of Montana. Aaron, did you want to add any more information about that?
Yeah, so that's something that, a bill that Marls and the state library have been proponents on, and I do believe MAGIP was able to submit written testimony for this recent hearing last week while I was on spring break, unfortunately, give the testimony. MDT has been there as an informational witness. It went really well. It's basically updating statutes using the updates were helped. They were written by Michael Dennis of NOAA. Both he and Brian Shaw were able to also give testimony, and I think there were some surveyors that were able to give testimony as well in support of the bill. The bill basically states moving forward, instead of naming each of the standards, it names the A standard, so the adopted NGS standard, instead of naming each one individually, so that we don't have to update statute every time the state plane coordinate system changes. And so I think it was a good piece of legislation, and it's gone so far so good. Got a lot of really great questions.
Senator Gillespie is the sponsor of that piece of legislation. It too has passed the Senate and was approved unanimously by the House Natural Resource Committee. So it too just needs a couple of more votes, and then it will move on to the governor's office.
I just want to pipe in on the coordinate system bill that's actually a bill that we've been working in cooperation with NGS on for more than just this session. So it's a big shout out to Marls for sponsoring that bill, and then reaching out to all our partners on getting support on it. So it's a good feel-good bill, and it'll allow for updates. Published coordinate system to be in concert with statute. So it's a good one.
Is we've worked a lot with JD Reed. I've gotten to know JD Reed. She sits on the committee with Marls, and she's out of Kalispell, and so she's been wonderful to work with. It's been enjoyable.
We also wanted to let all of you know that cadastral itself, the cadastral mapping and control, has been a topic of conversation throughout the legislative session. There were some early discussions about possible legislation that was all tied back to survey control. Some of those issues didn't actually result in legislation, but lots of conversations. It led us to do some analysis of what it would take to have complete survey control in the state of Montana. We estimated it was going to be about 10 years and $142 million. That caught some people's attention, not unreasonably so, but it was good information to put out there, and it's been really helpful for us to educate legislators about what is behind some of the coordination needs that the state has. There was conversation early on about the impact of understanding mapping along the high water marks along Montana rivers, and that may end up as an interim study going forward. So again, an opportunity for us to be involved and help people understand land ownership as it pertains to the high water mark and the boundary issues along rivers. So
in usage of mapping tools. And disclaimers
and proper data sources.
data sourcing and metadata, and so. Those were very interesting, right at the beginning, we had a lot of action at the beginning, those were really good conversations. So,
And I expect that they will only continue to increase as people become more and more adept at using this kind of information. So then I want to talk a little bit about House Bill 343, and this does fall under our new business as well. House Bill 343 was a piece of legislation that we worked on through the council to modernize and update the Land Information Act. It also had the effect of terminating our Natural Resource Information System Advisory Council. That bill is all the way through the legislative session at this point and will soon be heading to the governor's office for signature. Again, this was an agency bill with his support under the Red Tape Relief Initiative. So we have every expectation that he will sign House Bill 343. It was a bill that just went very smoothly through the legislative session, was heard in House Natural Resources, and it was just an incredibly heartwarming hearing to hear the level of the support that the legislature had for the GIS work that the state library is doing and the coordination that's going on in the state. It's really helpful when your committee chair was at a national legislative conference and he received kudos for the GIS data available through Montana. So he could kind of take a little credit for some of that. So that was very nice to have. So that bill sailed through pretty readily. And like I said, is heading for the governor's signature. Representative Tony Brockman from the Flathead carried that piece of legislation for us. And it was great to have a chance to work with him. So as you know, that legislation then creates significant changes for this council. First and foremost, replacing the word land with geospatial. So as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we need to come up with a new acronym for our Montana Geospatial Advisory Council. And then also it does change the makeup of this council pretty significantly from 21 members going down to 11 members. So you can see that what the makeup of the council would be once this legislation takes effect. It has a legislative date of effective date of July 1 of this year. So all of your terms under the current statute are set to expire on June 30th, and this would be the makeup of the council effective July 1. Again, these positions are appointed by the governor's office, and so the appointment process would continue through their office. The other difference in terms of the makeup of the council is instead of serving a 2-year term with the whole council rolling over each biennium, the legislation starts the process for 3-year staggered terms so that we can have more continuity in the makeup of the council going forward. So if you are interested in continuing to serve, you would need to reapply through the governor's office, and if you're a state or federal agency, through your agencies through the governor's office as well. We certainly hope that you will all consider applying to serve on the council going forward. This has just been such a great invested body, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to continue to do our really good work. One of our hopes for the smaller advisory council is that people will play a more representative role if there's only a couple of local government representatives or a single state agency representative, that we engage more directly with those groups that we are representing and bring that feedback back. Because we have a smaller council and we think that work is important for the representatives on the council. So some kind of immediate next steps for us as we work to implement the new legislation. We have one more meeting on the calendar for this existing council, that's May 11th. And we want to use that opportunity to really debrief with this council about what has worked well about our work and to hear your feedback about where you think we should position ourselves moving forward. So we were talking about potentially bringing in a facilitator or someone to that meeting to help really solicit that kind of feedback in a meaningful way. And then we want to celebrate the work of this council and the fantastic work that has happened over the 18 years or so of the existing act. There's just been a lot accomplished since 2005 when the Land Information Act was first passed that we need to recognize and celebrate. So we hope you'll join us for that May 11th meeting. As I said, then we need to work with the governor's office to seat the council that will start on July 1. The other piece of significant change in the legislation is that we're no longer required to do an annual land plan. We have to review the land plan at least every 3 years. And our hope behind those changes is that we'll have an opportunity to look to the GIS coordination and outreach work, look to the successes of the grant program, and use that information to better inform future land plans and get out of this cycle that we're kind of in of constantly either planning or doing the grant program without that evaluation period. So if we are not doing a land plan process this fall, that does mean that we need to take some time and reflect on our current administrative rules as well as the bylaws for the council. And we'll be considering doing that through a task force or because we have a much smaller council through the council itself. But that's the work that's sort of on our plate in the coming months.
I would like to reiterate that because there's a smaller council does not mean we'll have less coordination or less involvement. What we plan on relying heavily upon in the future is some of the groups that we either have a framework to create or have already created. One of those to represent state agencies would be our managers, GIS state managers or community of interest forum. We meet every other month. The other one would be, the other groups would be our MSCI working groups and some of the relationships we've already formed with Marls and MAGIP and other future partnerships we plan on formalizing. And so those groups will take more key roles in coordination and have direct communication and regular updates through those established or to be established working groups. There's always been an important emphasis on the MSDI working groups, but now there'll be even a greater emphasis.
Any questions or comments about our legislative changes and where we see things going from here? Dawn.
Yeah, thanks. I actually have two questions. One is based on what Aaron was just talking about with the involvement of those other groups and kind of leaning on them for input and feedback. Is that going to be somehow outlined in the new roles and responsibilities of that council?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And if you have thoughts about that, let's talk about it, especially in the next meeting. You know, that could be something that's written into our bylaws and operating guidelines, that kind of thing.
Okay, the second question that I have is knowing that that OGSM model that the governor favors, I'm just wondering if there's any specific metrics that smaller council will be evaluated against, or if there's any plan to kind of evaluate the effectiveness of that smaller council.
Good question, John. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the OGSM is the Outcomes, Goals, Strategies, and Metrics report that state agencies provide to the governor on a monthly basis. And so I don't know, we'll make sure you guys get a link to our OGSM reports that are available through our website. Don, to your question specifically, we are in the process of formalizing the actual metrics pertaining to our partnership goals that exist under that OGSM. And so the work of the council is included under those specific metrics.
The governor isn't asking for OGSMs for his appointed councils.
Not the advisory council level, no.
Okay, thanks. I was just wondering if there is a way to determine whether or not the smaller council was ultimately more effective than the larger 22 representative council.
I think that's a fair question, Don.
Hey, Jenny, this is Dan. Sorry, I haven't figured out how to raise my hand on my Zoom app yet, but my question is related to this discussion. There is some governor-sponsored legislation currently that looks like it's going to go through regarding boards, and that limits terms of governor-appointed board members. Do you know, is this council affected by that?
Dan, I think there are 3 pieces of legislation in council that I'm aware of. And the one here.
And if so, we should probably be discuss that at the next meeting as well. Doubt.
I think we were talking over each other a bit. There's a particular piece of legislation about quasi judicial boards appointed by the governor. And then there's a couple of other pieces of legislation pertaining to advisory councils. And so this council would not be impacted by the legislation that limits the terms of quasi judicial boards. Our statute, our revised statute, governs the appointment terms of those boards. The other 2 pieces of legislation, one allows for remote meetings and meetings to happen outside of Helena, which apparently didn't exist before, so oops. And then the other legislation increases per diem and travel reimbursements for council and board members. So there could be others that we should research, but those are the 3 that I'm aware of.
Thanks, Jenny.
There wasn't any term limits or anything written directly into our legislation. There was. Not term limits. Yeah, like the number of terms you can have, terms you can serve. I thought that was specifically in our election.
I think it's in our rules, you guys, but we can look at that in the next meeting.
It might have been discussed. I was gonna be asking.
Yeah, it is. So it says council members shall serve staggered 3-year terms, and each council member may serve a maximum of 3 terms.
Okay. So would that clock start like with this new?
With the new, exactly, yeah. Guys, you'd be with us for 9 more years.
Okay, so 5 years, Eric, that's 5 years.
Nice to be here today. I just have a question about the roles of the MLEAD Council versus the GIAC. Are they changing?
Not necessarily. We changed the name of the council in statute. So it's a naming change, not necessarily a functional change. There's nothing in the legislation that changes the duties or responsibilities of the council itself. Yeah. Other questions or discussion? All right, is there any public comments? Open public comments. Any public comments online? Any other business or announcements?
I forgot. One of the biggest announcements to make.
Well, now it's your turn.
So after the president had made the declaration to end the pandemic. I wanted like fireworks to go off, but honestly, I'm exhausted. I had started the conversation with the Department of Health. So the pandemic officially ends on May 11th, but who's counting? And with that.
Same day as our.
Is it happening? Oh, I did not do that on purpose. Well.
Maybe you did.
With that, I had brought up that, the idea of with the Department of Health, to potentially, retire our site, the COVID, dashboards and the data collection efforts that we have done for the past over 3 years. And I think you all saw the major announcements from Johns Hopkins. They stopped updating their dashboards and information as well. And it was agreed to. And so after 3+ years of responding to a pandemic, we will be retiring the update process. Matt has written a plan for communication on how we're going to do the retirement, and we plan on making sure that that's known to all, and how we will sunset the apps and hub, and the informational, of course, will be out there. But May 11th is our last update. May 5th.
May 5th will be the last update.
May 5th will be the last update we make to COVID. You will hear us cheering from Helena and other various locations. And so it's been kind of a crazy ride, but I am so excited to decommission that. One of the biggest, I think, hit data sources that we've ever published in such a short period of time. And we'll do our best to summarize. We're going to do some write-ups, contacts, maybe a reporter, let them know. So I think it's a good win to celebrate, but we're going to shut it down. So.
Nice work,
Yeah.
I think that if I might add, at least in our case, at our local government level, not wanting to say, COVID was a good thing, but I think it brought to light what GIS, what the geospatial community brings to the table to the health industry. I don't know how many times I got in front of our environmental health and our public health folks, and they all said, "Oh, this is a great thing," and then nothing ever came about. Suddenly March 2020, they're going, "You can do that?" And you're like, "Well, yeah, I've been telling you that." And so this, I think in terms of, if you want to say that there was something good coming out of it, is that, at least on our side of things, our public health department suddenly went, "Holy cow, you guys have some tools that we can use." And our epidemiologist will be coming in and talking about that Thursday at the conference, about the value of the Esri hub sites, the Esri dashboards, those ArcGIS Online tools that we suddenly made available to them. I shouldn't say suddenly, that they suddenly discovered were available, type of thing. So, I guess if you want to put a good stamp on COVID, there is that. But yeah, kudos to you guys for rolling that out and making those things available. And, we consume that data straight from your stuff. Prior to you guys discovering yours, I was trying to get Johns Hopkins, and then you guys suddenly made it more available, and that what feeds our website, feeds our sites. So thank you to that.
So.
GIS coordination all about, right?
Yep.
I have a question. Is there, or at least a suggestion, and especially because the final MLAC meeting coincides with that too, is there potential for a report, just with high level metrics to represent the effectiveness of those resources from
Yeah.
sort of start to end?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, just to get it off the ground, I think it'd be interesting if you had not been a part of it from the beginning to understand what it looked like. I mean, we were reporting twice a day, very hands-on. There were so many people involved. Our partners at Esri, Scott Moore and I, we stood up Experience Builder when it was still in like beta mode, and it became responsive, and that was like 11 o'clock at night, one of those things, we're on a call together doing it, and so I think it'd be good to do that overall reporting and how we were using ArcGIS notebooks in beta as well. And we went from hands-on data sorting, editing in Excel to using notebooks and Python and pandas and all the things I never thought I needed to know about. Then I handed it over to Matt when he was hired. Great hire.
I got the easy part.
I think just the flow, I'm not a strong coder, I have no problem saying that, coordinator. And so, knowing what I knew what I could do, I just had to get to the right people, even Nick.
Right.
You had helped us, I was able to pull in other state agencies, staff and borrow, I think just the playbook alone, there was a playbook that came out of NISJIC for the pandemic playbook. And I asked Frank Winters, former GIO of New York, I was like, do you have a decommissioning section? He's like, no, and I was like, well, we're about to decommission. So the pandemic playbook doesn't have a part for decommissioning these sites, which is extremely important. And the University of Montana they're one of the reasons why we have the web services up there, because they were processing. What you may or may not know is I was working with them and they were maxing our services, and I learned, like I said, I learned about HOL and going in and editing things I never thought I would. And they were using R scripts and all these other health data scripts and processing to run numbers and work with other agencies and other universities around the nation to study this information. So yeah, it was a lot of work.
It's a great story though.
Yeah, it is a great story. Stories and stuff going on.
Other business or announcements? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned and we'll see you on the 11th.
Thank you, everyone online.